With this video, we're going to be discussing things to take note of when shooting fast shutter speeds. What are the things that might help or hinder the shot you're about to take? Now, one of the things you might consider if your subject is moving perpendicular to you is that you would actually use the clock method. Now, we discussed this in greater detail in our panning course, but let's have a look and see what it does. So because the subject is moving so fast, you or your camera can't keep up with the autofocus. So what we do here is we focus at a point on the road here where we expect the subject to come through. And then, as you can see from the camera, we pick up around 10 o'clock on the clock and start shooting all the way through 12 right through to 2 o'clock. And that looks like this. You focus where you expect the subject to come through. You point towards 10 where you expect them to be any second, and then once they come into frame, you follow through all the way. And once you do that, you've given yourself an increased chance of actually getting a shot. Now you do need to change to AFS, AF single. You don't want continuous focusing for this because you want to be locked on to that point where they come through, because the problem actually is going to be that you're, certainly on an entry level camera, your continuous focusing may not keep up with something that's doing, 120 kilometers an hour, 70 miles an hour. It's just not going to work for you. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is that if you have a variable kit lens, and the chances are that you have, if you've got an entry-level camera, a variable aperture lens is likely to bite you in the butt if you're not careful. And every variable aperture lens, in fact, every lens tells you what it is. And in this case here, it's telling me on the front 1:3.5-5.6. It seems innocuous. Now, your camera may tell you up here or may tell you at the bottom. It seems like that's so. Well, when you're looking to get the fastest shutter speed possible and when you zoom in, the camera's working against you. Let me demonstrate that for you here. So here I am in aperture priority mode, and I'm in charge of the aperture, and I'm choosing the one that I want, which is the smallest number for the biggest hole, 3.5. I'm at the 18 end. This would be the 12 end of a Micro Four Thirds camera, 24 end, 28 on a full frame camera. Now watch what happens when I start zooming in. That lens is changing on me without me realizing, unless I'm looking at it. Now I'm at 55. So it's like a funnel. At 18 or at 12 or at 24, you have this, and as you zoom in, you get that less light coming in. So the camera's working against you at the very moment in time when you want to get as much light in as possible. You're zooming in and you're getting less. Now, what can you do about that? More ISO basically, but if you're not aware of it, then you can get tripped. So let's have a look here at this shot. So this particular camera was only able to go to f4, right? So f4 there is giving me 1/400 of a second. If my lens was an f3.5, then I'm going to 500 of a second. Now that's not much of a difference because I'm already fast with the shutter speed. So if you look here and then at the 3.5, which is the 1/500, not much of a difference. But if at the other end of the scale, 6.3 was what was available when I zoomed all the way in, that shutter speed for the same ISO has dropped to 1/160th of a second. That's a significant difference. And if I go to 5.6, I'm only getting up to 200. So the problem with the variable aperture lenses is that as you zoom in, you get less light coming in at the time you need it most when you're shooting fast shutter speeds. So just be aware of that, be mindful of that, and if possible, borrow or rent a lens, particularly if it's a very important event that you're going to. So that's the conclusion of this video, illustrating things to note about fast shutter speeds. I just hope you found it beneficial.